Hey everyone, we're live again, having technical difficulties. So I asked Lynn and Roy to join me in this new broadcast, and I hope everyone is able to see us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel, and get on this new stream. For some reason, it just dropped. I don't know if it was internet problems or otherwise. So hopefully this will fix what ails us, and then we'll get back into it. I see Lynn coming on, so let's bring him up. Hey there, Lynn.
I knew it was Roy.
Get yourself pretty again.
No.
We got
Roy. Everything goes on Roy right now.
Man, yeah, we're gonna blame Roy for this one. So we're not gonna let him travel anymore. But people are joining us now on this stream. So I'm really sorry, everyone. We having some technical difficulties that we are all blaming on Roy. But don't tell him that we said that when he comes back on. Don't let him know that. But we were talking about mentorship and the people in your life that supported you, even people who didn't know they were being your mentor, supported you and gave you what you need to move forward and be successful, and now be a mentor for youth. So now you're giving it back.
Yeah, and there was moved away from the kind of the field work and direct work with youth and schools and whatever, and now into that dreaded territory where you're sitting behind a desk and you're creating things, online, and not so much in the field work as I used to be. Get old and fat and slow down a little bit, and
you're not rock climbing anymore. You're not
I'd probably create a landslide if I was rock climbing.
No.
But there was a time, I was talking with one of my brothers, Jamie, who was an outward bound instructor with me at the time, and we made brothers all our lives now, and we're talking about those days. He's gone on to create a very successful string of schools, international schools, and and we were talking about our days as young, fresh, skinny, in shape, outward bound guys. Going down the Rio Grande River in Texas, in canoes, and back in those days of all these course sites we worked, and what we do now. Now we've definitely moved into the program development era, so we're not in a canoe anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. So do you think a lot of people look at youth these days on their stuff, on their phones, and I remember I went back to where I got my undergrad degree at Cal State Long Beach, and we had our Indian Center there on campus. And it used to be, man, we'd get calls because we were being too loud. We were singing and playing the drum, and we're doing all this other nonsense. And so when I went back to speak to the students, probably 15 years after I had graduated, I walk up going towards the Indian Center, and I don't hear anything, nothing. And I come up the stairs into the door, and all of these kids are doing this. They're all sitting right next to each other, but they're all doing this. And there's like drums and blankets and beautiful things all around them. They're all doing like this. So that's a much different environment than where you and I grew up. So what are you able to get kids outside and go on these adventures and really help build self-identity? Are we too stuck on our phones? Are the kids too stuck on their phones? Like, what's it like today for youth?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the growing challenge as we watched kind of the era of the cell phone, and also accessibility to the cell phone become widespread. There was a time back when I first started youth programming, taking somebody's watch away was enough to kind of cause them some distress. Like, hey, what, my watch? that seems, small potatoes compared to, a smartphone today,
Yeah.
and just, you have to be, a little more nuanced and clever in a way you take somebody's cell phone away, just for the, almost have to bargain with them now, to say, here's the bargain I want to strike with you if you want to can put your cell phone away for the next couple of hours. Um, the thing I always enjoyed about an outward bound course, and given I haven't instructed one recently, was you're likely going to have to give up that cell phone for your entire 14-day course or 22-day course or 28-day course or even your 90-day semester, and that's a big sacrifice to make. But it gives you an idea of people who don't have access to a cell phone, who can't afford that, it kind of puts things in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what do you think? The association works in various programs to reach out to Native youth. We work on Native youth summer camps. We provide some scholarships. We try to help people along their career path. Of course, we're doing Indian child welfare stuff and juvenile justice stuff. But what do you think is really needed in Indian country for our youth? How do we heal from historic trauma, and how do we cut that cord that connects us from all the trauma of our history and our generations from the past?
Yeah, and again, that's where I really go back to the outdoor-based education. You have to have you have to create a relevant and intriguing experience for a young person to stay invested for the time you need them.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about teaching language, you need that same amount of time and investment from a student. If you're thinking culture or language or ceremony, you need that extended commitment to time and focus. And that's hard to do unless you create that intriguing environment that they can learn in. And that intriguing environment, intriguing, challenging environment is hard to do within a four-walled room. It's hard to do it's hard to do online. We're seeing that now as schools, struggle to get online, because what it doesn't do is it doesn't give you that outdoor-based environment to teach these important lessons. If you want to learn about sovereignty, where best to learn it? Online or in a classroom or outside. When it comes to indigenous-based concepts of sovereignty, those all are based, in the outdoors. They have everything to do with our environment. Environment around us, environment we live in. So you really have to be intentional about creating that intriguing environment to bring a young person, up to speed or keep them attention. So inspire them. If you can't create the inspirational environment, you're not going to have that time frame you need them for.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. I remember growing up. I mean, and what I would do is I would just listen to my grandmother all day. I could listen to her forever and all her stories. But she and no one else in my family ever had a path. This is what you should do with your life. This is how you do it. Everyone seemed to be completely just unclear about how to maneuver in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Either you're going to kind of continue what we've got going on, which oftentimes I know in my family wasn't very healthy, or you just have to go out and make your own path. And it sounds like you were able to do a little of both. You were able to keep, because you had, healthy mentorships and family relationships, and you were making a new path that was going to support kids just as much as you were supported.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to really fill that role that my mentors had, and recruited other like-minded people, other indigenous people I worked with over the years, who had the same aspirations of being filling those mentor roles in their communities, whether they be reservation, urban, or rural. You have to have those people who are willing to really step outside the box and take on a new educational, well, it's supposed to be new, but actually not new for us as Indigenous people. Outdoor-based, learning environment, adventure-based learning environment. You create an adventure-based learning environment that challenges and challenges the soul.
Yeah.
You create the environment that most educators only dream of. Beyond the 45 minutes an hour class time.
Yeah.
You can create that particular class time in a span of days or weeks. You can achieve a lot of understanding in that time. Any anything like anything you need, like sovereignty, or anything you need, food sovereignty, any kind of thing that is pertinent to your community, you can create that environment that gives you days and weeks as opposed to minutes. You have a chance.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the work that you're doing now is with tribes in Michigan, and you're doing this type of work with those tribes and their kids.
Yeah, right now we're into the we came to an environment here where we had a State Department that really wasn't communicating with tribes, particularly tribal education entities. The communication process had long broken down. There's been bits and pieces here and there. There wasn't really a cohesive effort that from the Department of Education to really work with tribes in correlation with the education departments to create something that was respectful of tribal entities and tribal input. So that was really the driving force for us to kind of create what we do now, what we call the Indigenous Education Initiative at the department. We attended the first time what's called the Confederation of Michigan Tribal Education Departments, one of the quarterly meetings. And we're told by some of the elder members of the Confederation that this is the first time they've seen somebody in the department in 21 years.
Wow.
And that really kind of blew our minds that, that there was that much of a disconnect here. In knowing that we needed to fill that void somehow from the departments. And, and because we were new enough to the department and because we had enough support in the department, we created this initiative. But we had to make sure that we did so with the endorsement of the tribes, particularly the tribal education departments. And so before we even stepped foot anywhere, we made sure that, our team sought the endorsement of the Confederation and worked closely with them side by side. We still do that to this day. We make sure that, that we never over-represent and never over-promise, anything from the department side. And we make sure to keep the department in check, when it comes to anything related to tribal education issues.
So you work hand in hand with the state.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's our job now. We work at our 6-person Indigenous Education Initiative. We work for the Department of Education.
Right. Wow. And has that, Michigan today is much different than Michigan 10 and 20 years ago. So are you finding that a lot of the difficulties with tribal consultation and tribal sovereignty are gone now, so that Michigan is collaborative and cooperative, or are there still difficulties in dealing with the state?
I think the parts that are working are people. I think the difficulty is the overall system, and it was finding the right people on both the department side and tribal education side, because it was very, as you can imagine, it was very, tribal people were very wary of each other. They're very wary of a big Lakota guy coming in from the outside, saying that I work for the Department of Education, and there was some standoffish experiences I can tell you over the years, and one saying that Lakota, and two saying that I'm from the Department of Education. So there was literally some people who would not talk with us. Because I was who I am, and also because I came from the department. But we knew that to be the case, and we knew that would happen. And so what we always told ourselves is our little 4-person team was we just continue to power forward, continue to push forward, continue to do things in the right way and respectful way, and never come off as an expert. Particularly as a department, never come off as some kind of Indian expert. Mm-hmm. Even if you're an Indian, don't come off as an Indian expert.
Right.
You have to come in as a student. So we had to take that student learning stance, and ensure that anybody that we worked with in the department also maintain that student learning stance in this process. That even if your department or your program within the department worked with an Indian program sometime 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, we had to consolidate them and pull them all back together and kind of start from scratch again and kind of interview people and say, what's your experience? Where are you at? And do an assessment of where we were as a department, and to try to streamline those experiences and say, there's a new way of doing this. There's a better way of doing this, and we have to take our time doing this, and we have to do it right the first time. So that's been really our approach at the department, is to make sure that, we're taking it slow, and there's been a lot of push for us to go faster, a lot of push for us to do things, expedient timeline and do this and, and burn this down and burn that down. But, I'd like to say the department works that way, but as any large entity like a state department, doesn't work as fast as you want it to, and so it's exercise in patience, and it's exercise in understanding, tribal, opinions, that differ than yours or different than other tribes, so you learn to navigate those systems. And for us, it's navigating both sides, the Indian side and the non-Indian side, and you have to navigate them well and make sure that, you're balancing things along the way, and you're not over-promising, but that you're, the whole approach we've taken at the department is we're indigenizing the process. Indigenizing the process to ensure that the tribal education entities are the voice, are the trendsetters, that they're setting the tone, and that the department is following suit.
Oh my God!
Oh, it is.
What? I'm on.
He's in his car.
What the hell, Roy? You interrupted a good conversation, Roy.
Oh, you want me to leave?
No. What's going on? No, tell us what happened, because everything just stopped at like 40.
The whole stream went down.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
The whole
so
stream went down. I got kicked out.
Yeah.
I couldn't get back in.
Are you in the bathroom?
So I was. Well, I thought it was me, and the whole stream was gone. And I went back and I got to you guys for a second, and then I got kicked out again. And I'm like, okay, Shannon's just messing with me now. So so I just kept trying to get in. So I thought maybe it was the Wi-Fi in the hotel went down or something. So I came outside and just said, you know what, I'm just gonna go on the internet out in the car and do it this way.
What the hell? What do we do with you, Roy?
So what conversation was I missing out on?
We pretty much saved the world.
I don't hear that clicking noise.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Maybe that's cool. What was doing it, that clicking noise that
they're listening to us, Shannon.
Yeah,
they're listening to us.
Probably what it is.
No, that was an FBI agent typing.
Yes.
Shannon's every word. They're looking for her. They're gonna get her.
Yeah, it's just, technology is really screwy. It's given us so much, but it's also a little bit unreliable. So, we take it as it comes. We make do with what we got. We know how to do this. We've done this for centuries.
But Shannon, just think about how freaking amazing this is. So I'm in Arizona in my car. You're at home in Washington, and Jim is in. I mean, look at us. This is crazy. How would we have ever been able to talk to, Indian country like this ever at all, even with the little glitches? I mean, think about it. It's freaking amazing.
We all know you're really in the bathroom. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Oh, is that what I see? I see the comments now. He's in the bathroom.
That was my sister confirming you're in the bathroom.
Yeah, it was at Arizona Fry Bread.
I know. Don't be in a stall.
Yeah, watch out. The Navajo fry bread. So what kind of fry bread is best, Lynn? Navajo? Up in your neck of the woods? What do you think?
Oh, you gotta go Rosebud Fair and Pine Ridge Fair. There's your fry bread right there.
Okay.
Really?
Let's go. I'm ready.
I went to a Michigan State powwow. They have a powwow here, student-led powwow, and it was my first powwow here at Michigan State, and it was called the Powwow of Love. Okay, I never heard that before, but I'll go. I was excited. There was a big line. There was only 2 Indian taco stands. And I got in line and got a big Indian taco, and I sat down in the bleachers, and I was all happy. And I went to pick it up, and it just fell apart. They diced the whole taco into little
what?
That's so wrong right there. That's wrong.
That was sacrilege.
Civilized, man.
You
gotta be able to tear. You gotta be able to tear that stuff apart, man. You can't.
Exactly.
That is wrong.
Make it a little bite-sized. Okay, that's my rant. Okay, Michigan State. I'm sorry.
Oh, we were talking about education and working with the state and building up relations with tribes in Michigan and talking about you, Roy, and how you were stuck in the toilet and you messed things up for our stream tonight and
everything I blamed on you. Roy destroyed the stream.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'll take it. Someone's got to take it.
Yeah.
Well, look at you two. You two are like Twinkies. Look at this. You're both wearing black. You're both in your
that's what
dress clothes.
I was wearing my flat brim and my black and my Lakota uniform, man. I won't show you my getaway sticks, but I got my Dickies on too.
With your ashy knee.
Getaway sticks.
My ashy knees, yeah. my getaway sticks and my ashy knees.
See, in Lakota land, all you need is just that white collar, and you can be a priest. You're just gonna keep it in your pocket, put it on.
Oh yeah.
Walk into any church.
We don't want Roy walking into any church.
Nah, they won't let him in.
No church at all. All right, let's get back.
It starts getting real hot. My feet get hot.
You walk into church, we'll know what spontaneous combustion looks like.
There you go.
Yep. Oh, I'm wanted man too. They might arrest me. So the paperwork says something like within 300 feet.
Yeah, steals church wine, church wafers.
I don't know what you guys are talking about now. All right.
So what else? What did you solve? You said you solved the problems of the world. What did you solve?
Got rid of Roy.
Well, I'm back, so you didn't solve it.
I know. We're kind of bigger here.
All right, so Roy, do you have a question for Lynn? Would you like to, there's been some really great, let me just give a shout out. There's been some great comments in the chat room, and I'm so sorry that we had the technical difficulties, but everyone was able to pretty much follow over to this new stream. So thank you all for taking some time to figure out how to get back on the stream for us. And we're glad you're here with us. But we've had a lot of good comments. There were folks chatting up about your work, Lynn, and I remember there was a question about why aren't the Lakota playing lacrosse like the Haudenosaunee, and there were some other questions that I can't remember. I'm trying to remember. But anyway.
Because they're ballers, right? They basketballers out there, right?
Yeah.
At Lakota. Yeah.
Yes. They got them 6'5" boys out there. They're ballers. They don't need that lacrosse. Those boys need to go to the hoop.
Well, lacrosse is a Haudenosaunee sport anyway. That's where lacrosse comes from.
Well, I just got to go to Lakota Nation Invitational in December. You see all the Lakota teams competing against each other, mainly basketball.
Yep. Yeah, those boys, they grow them tall over there, man. They put something in that water. You said you're 6'5", right, Lynn?
Yeah. Used to be 6'4". 6'4" now. I'm kind of going the wrong way.
I know. I used to be like 5'11". Now I'm like 5'9".
No way. But there's something about the heat and the cold. It's like all the tall Indians are up where it's cold, and then as you get warmer and warmer, the Indians get shorter and shorter, which is the opposite of what happens in the rainforest, right? When there's a lot of heat, things get big. So I don't know what we're backwards a little bit. What?
Oh, I thought you were going to say I don't know what happened to Roy.
Well, Roy is one of those Southern Indians, so.
Yeah,
he's for sure.
We're Southern boy.
Yeah.
Louisiana.
And y'all are going to get a hurricane here pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
All right. We got to get back to Lynn. Lynn, I want to know more about you. I know that you're married, and your wife is a beautiful decorator. Tell us more.
I did that. Okay, I didn't do that.
Tell us more about you and what your life is, and what you do for yourself to stay close to culture, and because the work that you do has got to be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, it's there's no doubt it's tough to be away from home sometimes. Be away from your own language, your own culture, your own people. And Minneapolis was close enough. That's where we came from. We came here. We came here on just a series of work details that we thought would be here maybe a year. We're going on 7 years. I'm losing count. We've been here for much longer than we anticipated. I actually sold our house in Minneapolis, bought a house here in Lansing, so we can focus on our work here in Lansing, and across the state, and also really our national work, expanding our national work with the Tribal Education Directors, National Assembly, NIEA, really exposing our department and our colleagues here at the department here in Michigan to kind of the national network of Indian educators. So it's, the pandemic has definitely put us at home when we were so used to traveling and being on the road, traveling community to community here in Michigan, traveling to conferences across the country, even internationally. So the pandemic has really put a challenging, it was kind of crazy watching a bunch of Indians learn how to use Zoom. It's still funny to watch Indians learn how to use Zoom, during our meetings. And I throw my cousin Sandy right out under the bus. When I watched her a couple of weeks ago, and her eyeballs were right against the camera.
Yeah, she kept doing that thing like this.
So I said, I will not be Sandy. I will not put my eye against the camera.
That was beautiful. I love Sandy.
Sandy, a shout out to you. All right. I know you're better. I know you're kind of under the weather, in the hospital at the Veterans Hospital. So hope you feel good and feel better, and we'll make some prayers for you, Sandy. And if George doesn't, then let me know. We'll put George straight.
Yeah, where's George? We expected George to be on here heckling you.
No, where's that Omaha heckler? I need it.
Yeah, I wanted to see some tribal
Omaha.
rivalries. Yeah, Sandy tells some good jokes too. I know her and I don't know if it was a crow man or someone else. They were just going back and forth. It was great. It was great. I love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I got that going with George over the years. Call him mutual of Omaha Indian. So I'm trying to entice George to get online and fire back.
Yeah. So I love how Roy is kind of delayed, so his laughter comes like after.
Oh, I must be in the Super 8 parking lot across the street.
So it sounds like I'm real slow, huh?
Yeah.
You are the feed. You are the feed that's slow. We don't know.
Yeah. We blame Roy. So tell us some more, Lynn. I have more pictures of yours to show.
Oh, I don't know where we should go.
I don't know. What should we look at? What should we? Let me look real quick here.
Because I know there was one more mentor left to show when the feed went down.
Let me see if I can find it while you tell. You got a story or a joke to tell us while I pull it back up?
It's kind of depending on an Omaha joke. George is not online.
Well, since George is not here, man, maybe you can even tell a better joke. Let's see. You had Leonard San Jose, right?
Leonard, yep.
Okay, let me see if I can bring Leonard up here for you. All right. Here we go.
There he is. So this is one of my. Can you see it, Jen?
No.
Okay. So just double checking over here with the other feed, make sure it's up. So this is a man named Leonard Littlefinger, Lakota, direct descendant of Chief Bigfoot, who came on to be a mentor for me as those formative years of post college years. I started to run my own programs. I created what I called the Lakota, Dakota, Lakota Cultural and Historical Experience, which took urban youth from the Twin Cities in the programs we ran in Minnesota on a 2-week trip out to South Dakota, or lower part of Minnesota, I should say, South Dakota and Nebraska, and then back to Minnesota. And during that time, I got to know Leonard, the elder there, and he became a very influential mentor for me as I designed these trips. And I would always run things by him and say, am I doing things right? Am I doing things in the right way? Am I doing things respectfully? And he took the time to really mentor me in a way that was mentored my impatience with patience. Mentored my kind of imbalance with balance. Really put me in a good place. So combined with my other mentors, I had a good, good cadre of people around me, including, my sisters and, others. I come to rely a lot on my immediate family and, and these particular mentors, to really ensure that I was doing things properly and respectfully, so that I always had to make sure that I was doing that. So this particular picture is in San Jose, one of the indigenous service forums that I conducted. And these students are from Fond du Lac Reservation in Minnesota. Were part of our program. So they got to spend time with Leonard, and I always ask my mentors to share some of the same wisdom with my students. And so all the students that I've worked with on these trips, or on the national conferences, I made sure that they met my mentors. So there's a tendency for people who work with mentors and elders to say, those are my mentors, and become possessive of them, and possessive of their teachings, and say he only taught me or she only taught me, and that's a kind of a strange dynamic to see, but that happens, when you have influential people, particularly elders, and you have this jockeying for position to say, he's my mentor. That's still a strange thing that happens in Indian country to this day. But I had a very humble man who was always above all that. Could work with anybody and would work with anybody. So he was particularly influential because he worked with my students as well. So I wasn't trying to convey a message from him, our words from him. He was doing that at the same time with me and them. So I think that's kind of one of the best types of mentors.
Mm. Yeah, mentorship. Roy and I were mentored really well, and the one thing I learned about mentorship, for one thing, mentorship is a traditional thing, right? I'm sure it wasn't called mentorship. It was just part of being successful in how we lived. But the one thing about having good mentors is also about being a good mentee, right? So
Yeah.
you can have all the wonderful mentors in the world, but if you're not willing to let yourself be mentored and listen and take the elders' crap.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's part of it, right?
Oh, definitely.
So like in Indian culture, it's it's more in pop culture, you don't see people stepping in all the time and mentoring the kids. And it's like in Indian culture, like all the elders are taking care of all the kids all the time. You just see that more. And so mentorship in Indian culture just seems to be more natural, because like I called him my uncle. He was my uncle, he was my relative, he was my family, and he was my mentor. But it was like you brought somebody. It just automatically, like, they become your relative and they just start to take care of you, versus calling it, like in traditional mentorship, it's like, okay, well, this guy's going to show me how to get through this college course, or through this period of my
Like
study,
apprentice
or
or
whatever, apprenticeship or whatever.
Yeah.
But in Indian culture, it's like family. You get brought in, you call that person auntie or uncle or whatever, and they just, that's how that's the relationship that is taken on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had those. I think the common trait I have with my mentors is when he would speak about an issue and I didn't say something, and they would turn around and say, "Well, I'm going to assume that you know everything already because you didn't say anything." Yeah, I'm going to assume you're an expert in everything I just spoke of because you didn't say anything. That you must know everything already. So it wasn't kind of a mentorship where I got to sit back and like in a Hollywood movie and just be mentored with some sacred Indian mentor. Like in the movie, I had those mentors that challenged me. At the same time,
Yeah.
say, what did I just say? What do you understand about what I just said? So I knew I had to be paying attention. So it wasn't Hollywood type of mentorship. Hollywood Indian type of mentorship.
Yeah, the most difficult mentorships I've had is when my elder questions specifically, and then they don't answer that question. They never answer that question that you have. They give you something else, or they give you a story, and you're like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? And it's not until like go by or years go by and you go, holy hell, that's what that's what he meant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you feel bad, like, was I not paying attention good enough back then? It took this long.
Yeah.
And then they do other things like my mentor was Lakota Dakota, and he called me up one day and said, "Hey, it's time for I'm going to teach you how to sweat." And he said, "I need you to come over, be here at the house at 8 a.m." I said, "That early?" Huh? He said, "Yeah." So I went over there, I got to the door and I knocked, and his wife answered the door and she said, "Oh, he's in the backyard, getting ready for you." I was like, "Oh, okay." I was getting ready and I was excited and I was like, "All right, this is cool." And I go in the backyard and he's back there and he says, "Come here." I went over there and he handed me a set of shears and he said, "We're going to cut all these things down over here off the wall. All these weeds need to be pulled. All this stuff back here needs to be done." I said, "I thought you said we're going to sweat." And he said, "Oh, you're going to sweat. You're definitely going to sweat." And he made me clean his backyard all afternoon.
Pull the Mr. Miyagi on you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
He did.
Well, I did.
And
I
then
know that. Like I was talking.
He did it often.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about Leonard, and one of the stories I remember most is, so this is probably when a good lesson for me that I'm putting my mentor on a pedestal too much there, and I had a group of college students from Michigan, from Hope College, and took them to Pine Ridge, and I introduced them to Leonard, and Leonard invited us to come to the 8th grade graduation at the school he worked at. And so I'm leading this presentation with these college students, telling them where they're at, and took them to the school, and they got to sit in the crowd with all the proud parents who the kids are getting graduation ceremonies coming up, and so I'm gonna sit down and tell the students what to expect and what to look for, and we're gonna just watch this 8th grade graduation ceremony. And Leonard comes in and he calls me and my nephew Leland over, and gives me the microphone and said, "Here, you're gonna do the commencement speech." I said, "I'm gonna do what?" And he took Leland and he gave Leland medicine to pass out, and he said, "Okay," and made the announcement that introduced me and said, "I'm doing the commencement speech to all the families." And man, I couldn't, as much as I wanted to freeze up, I couldn't freeze up. I had to give a commencement address. So here I am.
That's some cold-blooded shit right there.
And I was like, I look back on it now and I said, so that's what mentorship is. You've listened to me long enough, I'm going to put you on a spot and you're going to show me what you learned. You're going to show me that you were listening to me all this time. That's really what he was saying. And so here I am, having to give a commencement graduation address in front of the students I brought, and then also the families and the students themselves. And I had to make sure I did it well. So I did him proud. And for me, that was probably one of the best learning moments I ever had as an adult educator. That I could be put in a spot like that and be able to pull it off. So I think of those kind of stories. That's again not the Hollywood Indian version of mentorship that you see.
Put you up on the mountain.
Yeah. This wasn't dance with gold.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I gotta throw a shout out to the chat room. One of our good old friends and my brother, Lakota, Cody White Wolf, is out in our chat room. I just moved Cody from he moved from the Los Angeles outskirts of Los Angeles area to up to a beautiful home up in the mountains up in Southern California, and Cody's doing well. Good to see you, brother. Glad you're in the chat room.
Very good to see you, Cody. And then you've got of course Lynn. You have your niece.
My niece, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
Mariah.
Mariah. And then our Wabanaki friend is reminding us that Leonard Peltier had his 76th birthday yesterday in prison. Still no word on release or parole, of course.
Has anybody heard any updates on his health and how he's doing?
No. I know that he was having health problems before, and I don't know if those have stabilized. I haven't heard anything in a while about his health.
Yeah.
But
And this COVID thing, man, it's really bad in the prisons.
yeah, but I know Deb Haaland, Congresswoman Deb Haaland, and others have been trying to plead for his pardon so he can be released. All right. so Lynn, okay, I got pictures about the Global Teens program.
Yeah, I think we can go to that.
Bring those up. All right. Yeah. Let me see if I got those. Bringing those up.
So I'm glad my niece Mariah threw in because she gets to be on us.
Wait a minute. What happened to Roy again?
It's in the stall.
Now he really is in the bathroom. Oh, there he is.
In the bathroom.
Just a urinal.
Yeah, we don't want to see that. You can leave that all blacked out there, Roy.
No, this is a program that I ran for a decade, with the International YMCA of New York City, and the International Y had a global program where they sent teens from all 5 boroughs around the world, for again an experiential education event, but these were youth that were probably a lot of times didn't leave the boroughs, didn't leave New York City, and all of a sudden they were going to places like Thailand and Spain and all these places the YMCA sent them. I was contacted by my sister, beautiful sister Lisa Rodriguez, who's probably on, because the YMCA didn't have a U.S. based experience. I had been running my cultural experiences for a number of years, and was contacted by Lisa and said, can we get our New York City teens out to South Dakota? Can we do the experience? And so for a decade, I ran these trips with all these New York City youth from all 5 boroughs.
Wow.
And they got, like I was talking about my mentor, they got to meet all my mentors. They got to meet all my cultural consultant staff who were my mentors, and I was able to,
That's cool.
honored to lead them through these experiences for weeks at a time. We started in Minneapolis. It was a road trip. They flew to Minneapolis, and we got in a van, and we did the 2-week trip through the big circle out through Pine Ridge and Rosebud and Black Hills, and Nebraska, and then back to Minnesota and tribes there. So it was an experience where they all had to sign up for. So I had to create an experience that was going to compete with Thailand or Spain, or wherever. I would go to New York City, and then they would say, and the people who were putting on the trip saying, did a presentation, this is what we'll do in Spain, or this is what we'll do in Thailand, so we'll do in Costa Rica. And there I am, I got to South Dakota,
Like, here's what we do on the res.
This is fry bread. This is what we're going to eat. So I had to sell South Dakota. It's tough to sell because I don't like South Dakota. I'm not part of the tourism program in South Dakota, but I had to kind of sell the experience about, this is why there's poverty in the South Bronx, and this is why there's poverty in South Dakota. This is why the brown people in South Dakota and the brown people in the Bronx experience this poverty. And these are the root causes. These are the, country government-led causes of this. So we got to explore in depth a lot of commonalities and who they are and where they came from, and they got to interact and meet with their peers on the reservation. A number of experiences.
Is this more of the same?
Yeah, this is another group, and these are a couple of different groups, I think. But the size of the groups that would come, so they would have to sign up for this program in South Dakota in their YMCA in New York City. So they would volunteer from their individual YMCAs. They would all come together at the International YMCA and sign up and prepare for this trip. And so this is them at one of the groups at Crazy Horse. So we got to talk about the introduction to, who are your heroes in boroughs? Who are your heroes as Lakota people? Who are your heroes as Lakota people? What are the commonalities? So there was a common theme that made sense to everybody. There was definitely a connection made. A DNA connection. To who they were as Puerto Ricans, as Dominicans, whoever they represented from the South, from South Bronx or Brooklyn or Harlem, Queens, so it was.
Here's Lynn. Here's Lynn.
That was 70 pounds ago, maybe 60 pounds ago.
There's the shorts.
And
the getaway sticks.
Yeah, and my niece Mariah in the white. My niece would just send me some love. The thing about these trips is I knew that it would not be respectful for me to hoard these ideas and hoard these experiences. I knew I had to be able to translate them and transfer them to the next generation.
Right.
And so I would ask my students to be my staff members, and Mariah, who hosted, was one of my staff members. And I made sure that I always had a young person with me so I can say, this is the model that you can use for yourself. This is not, something that I own. I don't own these places. I don't own these experiences. I don't own this medicine. It's something that I know how to speak and translate. But I have to make sure that if I'm doing it right, I have to make sure that I have a generation behind me who are going to, grasp what I'm teaching. And so when my time on this earth comes to an end, that this work continues, this type of work continues. So these are, some of my New York City groups who, over the years, came on these experiences in the Black Hills and Pine Ridge and Rosebud, even down in Nebraska on the Santee Reservation, and then to Rosebud Sioux. And so a lot of this trip is based on service. Lakota we call service learning model, learning by doing. And so this is, a project that was conceived by the students before they came from New York City. And I wanted to make sure that you are coming here to understand service in a different way, not service as pity, but you need to understand service as empathy. And what can you contribute instead of just coming out and doing a service project or just doing a project that gives you points. We want to make sure that you conceive a project, that you communicate with the person who's the recipient of that you yourself do the work, and then you get to know the people who did that work. And so this is my relative's house in Rosebud. Who these students completed he's always in need of a wheelchair ramp, and I said, you can go out and do a wheelchair ramp project, you can build it and walk away and she would never know you. But this is how we're doing it. You're going to contact her before you even leave New York City. You're going to establish a relationship, a respectful relationship. And then when you go out to meet her, it's not going to be, not meeting strangers. You're coming out and you're going to meet the person that you contacted, the person you got to know. And then so when you come, there's a mutual respect, a pre-relationship established. And so they came out and, they had the project, and I had my brother Matt come out and kind of supervise the project and supervise the power tools they would use to build this wheelchair. And so they came out and built this project, and we stayed there on what we call Little Dog Estates. If we lead on probably right now, so I'm gonna embarrass him with the story later. But that was his mother's house where we did the project. And so that was, we made sure that when we traveled, that we did those kinds of things. They just didn't do them just because they were coming to drop off Bibles or they were coming to drop off used clothes. But they were coming to contribute actual service, meaningful service.
Right.
Did this take the lag out of my my sound, or is it the same?
It doesn't look a thing like you, Roy.
Did that take the lag out of the sound, or no?
Your sound just seems fine now, so I don't hear a lag.
Well, I had a really good question and good something that I'd like to talk to Lynn about is, you've done all this work and you've taught, inner city kids, brown kids, empathy for, what's going on reservations and Indian country, and you brought them there and shared things with them. And it sounds like the experience was, was warm They took to it, and they grew from it. They were mentored. How do you feel with the climate today, and American culture in general? I know we've got some political divides. We've got things heating up, things happening in brown communities and Indian country that have not happened for centuries, that they've been trying to get done, like the mascot changing. So we've got this environment where things are changing and changing quickly. Are you seeing that there's kind of an open door, or some way to reach out with Native culture into the American community, the white community, in general, the U.S. community, to bring them in and show them how to empathize with Indian country and what it's gone through over the last 500 years?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think that the challenge is to the risk, and not challenge. The risk is exploitation. The risk is exploitation of indigenous educational models or indigenous teachings, that there's a community out there waiting to pounce on that and look for that, waiting to exploit that. And so the thing that I always made sure to do was make sure that any kind of teaching that we shared were protected, and not to be exploited. And that's on a small scale. On a small scale, and you're talking about a brigade size, 10, 12 people. It's easy to control. It's easy to protect. But when you're on a statewide scale or a national scale, it becomes more difficult, because you are still in that protective mode of ensuring that what you have as indigenous people, your unique teachings, your land-based teachings, are not exploited and used for somebody else's gain. And that's the thing that's a difficult balance to strike, is because you want to educate.
Always.
You have that drive and need to educate, but it's finding allies. Who are allies out there who want to exploit this newfound relationship, who want to exploit this information that would just, any university in the world would die to have, because they can create, incredible things with it. So you have to strike that balance, and so it's hard to do, because it feels like you're doing it piecemeal. You're gaining allies one or two at a time, when the need is much greater than that.
Exactly.
And
And that,
so you have to really, it's a difficult balance to strike.
yeah. And I mean, there's like I said, in general, like bringing the larger community of the U.S. population into Indian country to expose it a little more, not necessarily exposing private things or ceremonial things or things that are can be exploited, but the communities themselves, the people themselves, and the day-to-day struggles themselves. Because like right now, with the Black Lives Matter movement, we're seeing a struggle being exploited because of video, because of people focusing on it. And is there a way, or do you think there's an opening for Indian country to exploit the struggles that it's going through at this time, to put that out in the forefront, like the Black Lives Matter movement has? I mean, I know it's very graphic, that what we're seeing right now, with the men being shot and laying in the streets with blood, and the police standing on top of them and choking them out and doing all of these things that we've all seen happen on the res and all over Indian country for 500 years. That hasn't changed. But do you think that there is a vulnerability in the armor that is the American way, that can be exploited right now, so that Indian country can actually, bring some empathy to itself in this time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hold on.
I'm a glass half full kind of guy, I guess, and I'm seeing that there's opportunity here,
Hold on.
and that's that.
Oh,
Has to make her nationwide debut. She's been bugging me and bumping my leg. This is Gracie.
hey, Gracie.
Hey, Gracie.
Can you leave me alone now so I can talk? Okay. All right. She does that during our Zoom meetings. Anything, she has to be on my lap. Go. No. No, now she's bugging me. Yeah.
She wants more.
Hey,
we lost Roy again.
I answered his question and he took off. No, I think that, I think if anything we learned about exploitation, as being an exploited people, as having lands and resources exploited, there he is. They're just talking about exploitation.
Yes.
I think that the lessons learned from that is if we do a combination of being educated in two different worlds. If we are properly educated in indigenous ways of knowing and indigenous ways of being, and you have this, and you can take that knowledge and that experience and that strength and educate yourselves in the non-indigenous ways, in the European-based model of education, you become twice as strong. And I wouldn't necessarily say that you push back and exploit the exploiter, but in a way you almost have to. You almost have to, because I talk about our people being revolutionaries. I think that's the key, is to be revolutionary and evolutionary. If you are revolutionary as an indigenous person and you combine it with an evolutionary model of education, that you indigenize for yourself, you become twice as dangerous, and you're twice as respected. And I tell our young people, I said, you have to be both. That movement, it has to continue, it has to evolve. So if you're talking about being revolutionary, that's good, but take the next step and be evolutionary. Combine the two. Become become an indigenous based educator, and also become a European model based educator. If you become both those, that is a combination that scares a lot of people. It's a combination that scares a lot of institutions. But I think that's what we have to exhibit and push our young people to become. If you become multidimensional, in who you are as an educated indigenous person, you become a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
our mentor used to speak that way also.
So it sounds like we're winding down a little bit, gentlemen.
Okay.
Is that what it sounds like?
All about just a couple more pictures.
Yeah, I know there. Let me bring up some pictures that you wanted to.
So Michigan work is just a few, and I got to shout out to our Michigan people here before I go. Otherwise, I have to answer to them when we hang up.
Oh wait, so which pictures did you want me to show then? Something different, or?
There's a Michigan work one.
Michigan work. Okay, hold on, because we got the.
Oh, George is on. I heard George McCauley.
Is George on? What's he doing? All right, so I'm going to share some photos. Is this Michigan or Minnesota? Is this
used to live in Minnesota. So this is.
Are these the pics?
Well, these are some of the Minnesota work back then. This was youth work that we missed, but
okay,
we can go through real quickly. But these are all our Native youth from the urban areas of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and to the reservations of Minnesota through our service learning work. These are service learning conferences that we took them to in Albuquerque, Philadelphia. This is Albuquerque again, our indigenous youth. This is my group with Winona LaDuke in Philadelphia at the service learning conference there. These are all I talk about that model of making sure that, that I am not the facilitator, I am not this, I am not the only one, I created a group called the Indigenous Youth Leaders. So everything that I knew about service learning, I tried to give to them. This
Someone
is how,
spamming the chat room.
Uh-oh. Tell them to go away. Oh, wow.
So these are, either outward bound experiences in the northern Minnesota at the Voyager Outward Bound School. These are, the types of learning experiences we sent our young people to, so they could have these firsthand outdoor-based experiential education opportunities that they can, then go back to their peers and say, this is what we did. This is something I've never imagined myself doing on a ropes course, or, zip lining down off a ropes course,
Wow.
dog sledding in the wintertime, snowshoeing, so these are all the, year-round courses we exposed them to. So that was kind of briefly the Minnesota work that we did. But it's evolved all these years later into our work in Michigan here. And those experiences have brought us here to Michigan to work with the Street Fires Council people, to make sure that we give a shot at that. So if we get the Michigan work, that'll be good. And we got that. So,
hey, there we go.
Man out, and one of my brothers, Brother Michael from Washington State, and Steve Perry here in Michigan, who's at I swear he teleports to every conference everywhere. Every powwow, every conference, Steve is everywhere. Steve with a hat. But this is one of our tribal education department, national assemblies at the Pokagon Band down in Southwest Michigan. So we became part of that entity, and this is the team. This is our original team, our Indigenous education team here in Michigan. And Jennifer on her right, or left, wherever we're looking at, and our boss Terry in the center, and Priya, our other teammate. So we're the original 4 that became the Indigenous Education Initiative. We've now expanded to 6. We have Nate Beelan and Rob, who are round out our 6-person team. And this is our Confederation of Michigan Tribal Education Directors Leadership Group.
Wow.
Big group.
That we've now expanded to. So we make sure that who we are as an entity of the Department of Education, that we answer to the Confederation and not the other way around. We make sure that everything that we do in concert with them, and we do with their endorsement.
I love this picture, by the way. I love this one.
And this is, actually, you can see my T-shirt. But this is a conference that we had at Michigan State University, so I had to give a Michigan State shout out. And this is my, a presentation on sovereignty and why sovereignty is important to us, and the types of sovereignty that we have to be knowledgeable in, and we have to be, we have to be able to speak fluently. And my focus on that day was food sovereignty. And so the basic concept of sovereignty, is, as I first came to understand it, was, can you feed yourself? Can you feed your people without the assistance of the federal government? If those tribes that depend on government rations every month, if that government ration disappeared tomorrow, what would you do? Would you feed your people? And as one of my mentors saying, that is the most important part of sovereignty is food sovereignty. Is, do you know how to feed your people if the money disappeared tomorrow? He said all the other sovereignty goes by the wayside, because food sovereignty is of primary importance. You have to learn how to feed yourself, and you have to learn how to keep yourself healthy. And we have to get back to those indigenous ways of being, and that means food. Our original diets. You can address all these health problems of diabetes and all these rampant health problems that are tied to our diets. So that's I think the most important part of sovereignty is food sovereignty, and that's one of the things that we're pushing the Department of Education to look at. and some of our work here is to say, we have to look at food sovereignty, and we have to look at it from the lens of the indigenous people. So we have to indigenize that process. We can't use the USDA process anymore. We have to use an indigenous lens when we think about food sovereignty. So that was my talk on that day, at Michigan State.
Right. Woo. That's some good stuff. Yeah, I like that. I like that Vine Deloria quote that if you're sovereign, you got to act sovereign.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really that simplicity that sometimes we forget, and sometimes our tribal governments forget.
Sometimes.
Because we're so dependent, or some of us have become dependent on the federal government and others, that we forget that we are sovereign, and that's the way we were meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's sovereignty is not just one concept. There's multi concepts of that, and we have to be fluent in all of them. Yeah,
absolutely. So Lynn, I know you have someone you'd like to recognize. Do you want me to bring that up now?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of close with, it goes back to those South Dakota trips and some of the pictures you've probably seen her in these photos, but these are in those photos, I should say, but these are recent ones. So this is Deanna Echeverry. She was the International YMCA's director at that time when I was leading some of those trips. Over the 10 years I led those trips. And so Day was, a powerful Colombian woman, 5-foot Colombian woman that I was scared of, because even though I towered over her, she definitely commanded the respect. And, she was the director at the time, the International YMCA of New York City, in a Global Teams program that sent New York City students out to South Dakota. It was under her leadership when the whole concept of this program was to be an exchange, or we would have these New York City students come to the reservations of Pine Ridge and Rosebud, and there would be an exchange of students where we'd design a counter program where we'd have our students from the reservation go to New York City for 2 weeks and experience life in all 5 boroughs with the students they met on the trip previous. So they would have peer-to-peer mentorship in these environments. That was the design that we had come up with, and unfortunately, through politics, through tribal politics, we couldn't get our tribes to buy into that, buy into that concept, and we couldn't get our tribal education departments to buy into that, for as good as it sounds, So unfortunately, that didn't happen. But we had a great relationship with Deanna Echeverry, who pushed the program to where we wanted it to be, where we needed it to be, and she was incredible. And unfortunately, we received news a while back last month that she contracted COVID-19 and lost her 2-month-long battle with COVID-19. So, but that's Deanna. She got to graduate here from CMU law school here in Lansing. Became this incredible advocate, and is somebody that I really want to pay homage to and pay my respects and show everybody who's on this broadcast is, this is an Indigenous woman who taught this Indigenous man a lot. So give her respect. Show respect.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Lynn. And
thank you, Lynn.
We'll take a moment for her and for others who are who have suffered and continue to suffer because of COVID and other things that are happening now in the violence and economic insecurity that we're facing today. So this was a different show tonight.
Yeah. Well, it's always different. It's always different.
It is
Lynn's
always
a different person, different Indian.
Yeah, but Lakota, it's always different.
Oh man, the Lakota with dogs too, like
not
with,
res dogs,
with
not
bougie. He got bougie res dog.
Bougie dogs, not res dogs. Not 10 and 1.
He's a bougie native.
Yeah, not dogs that are 1/16 tribal members. You know, these are full blood dogs. These are these are 4 force dogs I got.
FBI dog, right?
Yeah, well, we're not like George, man. George McCauley, I know you're there, man. You're the only 2016th Indian I know. You're overqualified.
He's too much Indian.
That's too much. Too much. Oh, the Omahas, they're like that.
It's too much.
Mutual of Omaha.
Mutual Omaha Indian.
Right on.
Chief.
Well, really, really like what you had to share, Lynn. I appreciate you for who you are and what you're doing out there. It's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, the youth and mentorship. I appreciate people like you, and thank you for doing the work that you do in Indian country.
Yes, thank you very much. We need about 1,200 more of you, and we're grateful that you're working with youth. And Roy is. What are you going to the drive-through? What's happening up there?
No, the car actually shut down. The car shut itself off.
George, my man. Best Omaha I know.
Oh, there goes Roy again.
Yeah.
So this is usually the time, Lynn, we bring you down and we close up shop here. Again, it was really great to have you. I don't know if Roy's coming back or not. Here he is again in his Madman suit.
I'm sure you kicked me out that time.
I did no such thing, I swear.
You did. You threw me out that time.
No, that was your drive-through dingling going on over there. So we're
drive-through dingling.
Well, we're gonna close up shop now. So trying to find a smooth transition is just not happening.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
All right, Lynn.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Wopila.
You can. We'll pull you
Thank
down. You
brother.
can stay there if you'd like, and we'll be back there to talk to you in a minute. Thanks, Lynn.
Okay.
So Roy, another episode. What? What did I do now? Another episode of Red Hoop Talk has finished. Episode. I want to. I have a banner. Check this out. I was able to do this. Let's see if I can do it.
Oh,
remember,
look at that!
Subscribe on YouTube, and you can receive a scholarship to the 6th annual repatriation conference. Just email general.aaia@indian-affairs.org and tell us why you want to attend the conference. So please, would love to see you as part of our repatriation conference, and want to make sure our Red Hoop Talk listeners know how to participate and learn more about repatriation and NAGPRA, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act.
Yes. Right on. And who brought this all to us?
The Association on American Indian Affairs, the oldest nonprofit serving Indian country since 1922. Serving Indian country. And next week's guest is Vance Black Fox, who is from the Cherokee Nation. And he will be with us with some interesting, he's been involved in a lot of different Native nonprofits. And so I think he'll have some great stories to tell. And he'll be coming to us from Texas, I think.
Tejas, which is Teisha, which is friend in Caddo, by the way, just to educate everybody a little bit. The name of Texas is a Caddo word for friend.
Thank you, Roy. That was very educational, everybody. All right, let's say good night and wrap it up. Thanks, y'all, for putting up with our technological difficulties, and glad we were able to make our show happen again another week, and we're grateful. We'll see you again next week.
See y'all. Red Hoop Talk.